done the assessment of significance. Essentially, I think we should follow the guidelines each time, and I really feel that the statement of significance is really important and should be reworded each time, which I'm sure it is, but, you know, take the key points from your assessment and reword it and, you know, work up a really sort of pithy statement, yeah.
So if council has prepared a heritage inventory sheet for an item,
Yep.
and that document is publicly available, do you think it's acceptable to quote that with citation? I'm not saying plagiarise it, make it very clear that you're quoting it,
No,
and
I
then
don't.
maybe put a bit of discussion afterwards about what Rappaport thinks of
No, I
that.
think we're reassessing it, probably 10 years on.
Sure.
Yeah. I really
Okay.
believe that that's what we've been paid for. And
No, you're talking about not the subject item. You're talking about the item
No,
like
she's
next
talking
door.
about-
I'm saying if this building that we're assessing is heritage listed.
yeah,
Oh, okay,
Okay.
sorry.
No.
Yeah.
And there's an existing statement of heritage significance from council.
yeah.
Should we include that in here to say
Mm.
we
No.
we see you and raise you?
We do assessments all the time. We have information from various registers and we
Mm.
write our own.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
And if we disagree with something on it, we don't normally say so, but 9 times out of 10 you wouldn't disagree and you'd probably put a bit more information in. Because we are assessing it as professionals and probably it's going to be a hell of a lot better than is on the council register anyway.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if we're doing this assessment of heritage significance and we actually have found that, like, we disagree with council or what's on the council website, or, you know, we've actually found information that is true and what they've got is incorrect? What would happen in that situation?
Oh, I know there was a job I was doing for Paul that had exactly that issue. Can you explain it?
Was that the Chinese Market Gardens? Yeah, well, there was an issue about the date from which, in fact, it came out of Nikki's research. It was the date from which Chinese Market Gardeners first started working the land. And it's been assumed that it goes back 150 years, where in actual fact we were able to show that that only first started there in the 1920s. So there's a bit of an urban myth about how long those gardeners have been there, and the historical research that we undertook clearly refuted what had been written in the
And the
inventory
State
sheet.
Heritage Register, I think.
Yeah, and in fact, it so happened that after our report, the State Heritage Inventory was corrected
Oh,
to
that's
reflect
good.
our
Oh, that's
research,
good.
as opposed to,
Yeah.
and yet, notwithstanding, there is still continual reference to the Chinese market gardeners having been there for 150 years, as opposed to 100 years.
So possibly if you were going to point that out, you'd do it in your historical section, not in your assessment of cultural significance, because you'd still just assess it as you assess it, because it's a rational assessment.
Can something have like just technical significance and no social? Like, we'd still do the same sort of report, like same sort of statement of heritage impact if it's only technical.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Well,
'Cause it
usually
would have-
factories have a high level of technical significance, but there's always an attendant historical significance that goes with it. So
Usually,
it's unusual that there's only one category. For instance, a religious type building, church or synagogue, is going to have social significance as well as historical.
Yes.
A factory will have technical and historical.
But nothing is more or less significance because it ticks more boxes
Sure.
than another
Oh,
place.
okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a question of degree.
Right. Okay. Sorry, Alex.
Yeah, regarding technical significance, how do we approach movable heritage that is contained within a factory or a warehouse? So when I say that, for instance, at Central Station, it was mentioned that within a building in the Western Yard, there was some machinery which was regarded as having technical significance. But how you can relate that to the building itself, the physical
Yeah.
fabric, I don't know.
Well, we've put in a limitation saying that we're not assessing local
Okay.
heritage, and we would recommend in our SOE, in our heritage impact statement that that some sort of assessment of the movable heritage be made.
And I
But we wouldn't be doing that in this report.
I suppose a couple of queries that have arisen from that is that does the technical significance refer to the construction, as in it was a very innovative approach to the way the building was built. So for that, reason it has technical significance?
Yes.
Or is it more to do with the use of the building was for a particular type of technical
I think it can be
activity?
both. For instance, I'm thinking of the Briscoe building in Ultimo,
Mm.
where there was the last remaining, or one of the last remaining hydraulic lifts from the original hydraulic system, where there were about 400 lifts all connected to a single hydraulic system in the city that pumped all the lifts up and down in these warehouses. That was, back 1900s and earlier. And there was one remaining from that building. Now, although it wasn't in operation, the lift itself was still there.
Mm.
It was identified as being significant. It had to remain. So any design or change of use of that building is going to have to incorporate that lift
Mhm.
as being an item of significance.
But Alex,
Mm.
that lift comes in under aesthetic, because
Right.
it's associated with creative or technical innovation or achievement.
Okay, so there is a crossover.
Yeah, there is. So
Mm.
between C, which is aesthetic, criterion C, and criterion E, which is potential to yield sort of technical information.
Sometimes I think it's misinterpreted, and the technical significance is not tied to actually what the black and white sort of statement is in that
Yeah.
document.
There
But
is a
why
bit
would
of
you
an-
say why would you say aesthetic when in fact the lift was
Well, that's-
part of that building
I-
from the original construction?
Because
agree.
it shows creative or technical innovation or achievement.
and that's classed as aesthetics.
It's classed as
And I
aesthetic.
suppose it would also be
However,
historical.
also under criterion E, it does say ability to reveal valuable archaeological, technical, or scientific information. So it's
Personally, I'd put it under
Yeah.
E,
yes,
technical,
yes.
in the
Okay.
case of that hydraulic lift.